You know what? I guess we're going to have to at least try to spread out the DPB show and the content because, man alive, Tuesday to Thursday, there just isn't enough time to cover everything that happens Tuesday night to Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock. Hey, I appreciate you guys joining us here at the DPB show. Continue to like, subscribe, share with friends, get friends involved. If you know somebody that you believe is an extraordinary talent, or even if they're not, you believe there's somebody who enjoys talking about things related to this world that are so vital, so important, have them get on the DPB show. See if they would like to be a guest. We'd love to interview them. If you know some unique talent out there, we're always looking for people to build the bench with. Ryan, obviously, he's someone who came along just a few years ago, started doing what we're doing here. Ty Smith, he's been doing it a little longer. Kat Peterson, Kevin Ferris. We had a guest on last Thursday. It was last Thursday. What today is today? Thursday. Yeah. Last Thursday, we had a great young talent in Grace Latz, who's with Americans for Prosperity. So there's plenty of talent out there. There's plenty of people. Once again, we just so appreciate you being part of what we do here. On the national scene, is definitely a lot of movement within this space of what we do day in, day out. I, coming into studio, was listening to Jack Pozobic. Jack had the fortunate pleasure of being one of the chosen influencers / upcoming podcasters, non-propaganda media talents who, Jack's background's naval intelligence. He's a former naval intelligence person. He got an opportunity to have an audience today with Pam Bondi and some of the cabinet in regards to the Epstein files, and Trump was there and JD Vance, and he's got a shout out from President Trump. So the world is continuing to evolve, especially in this space. And I'm hopeful at the very least, when my time is done, when my time is over behind this microphone, I can point to other people who have picked up the baton. Dan Bongino is creating a huge, huge void, not near the void that was created when Rush Limbaugh passed away. But look what Rush Limbaugh did. He created and built a movement and a bench that Dan Bongino was able to basically flow into that space, just like so many others. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on now. It used to be just one, and it was Rush Limbaugh with his audience of one when he launched the EIB network. Well, yours truly at the DPB show, that's what I'm hopeful. That's what I want my legacy to be, is pointing to other people who've stepped up, filled in. There is a need for somebody to step in, the next person up for Dan Bongino's slot of 11 to 2. Who knows who that's going to be? And if for some unbelievable, and nothing's impossible with God, if I were to be called and said, hey, Dave, would you like to put the DPB show in a space of 11 to 2 on a radio station, I would be jumping and trying to go through every hoop, because ultimately that's what I can offer now to this movement that is taking it by storm. How do we know that? We know that by watching, as Dan Bongino says, watch the reaction of propaganda media, watch the reaction of the left. They can't control the fact that we are reorienting this country back to its constitutional principles. They say we're in a constitutional crisis because they don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe in making America great again. They don't believe in a small government. They don't believe in government of, by, and for the people. They need bureaucracy. They need the inside scoop. They need everything about the craziness of what we saw over the last 4 years. And they are literally scrambling at a rate that we're going to cover today. We've got so many things to talk about, but I don't think anybody does it better than Scott Jennings right now. I was commenting to Mrs. Producer. That's right. She's with us behind the scenes right now. That would be my beautiful wife, Tanya Blumenshine. I was commenting to Mrs. Producer that Scott Jennings, I mean, this guy has hung in at CNN. I mean, propaganda media. And for whatever reason that they allow this person, Scott Jennings, to be on the show is baffling to me, because watch how he, and I think he says it in his own words best, watch how he literally dismantles the panel on this show. In fact, it states here, this is from Scott's Twitter, or I'm sorry, X post. I still make that mistake and jump back, but I'll get there. Elon is one of the gifts that Elon gave us, is he moved us from Jack Dorsey's Twitter to Elon Musk's X. Scott Jennings, I spend most of my time repeating back to liberals their own words and ideas, only to have them seconds later deny ever saying them. It's truly astonishing. The convo on CNN. Here it is.
Can we be real for a moment that Doge is not about cutting money, right? It's not about spending. It's about shrinking government so that it'll be too small to stop Trump with whatever else is in this plan.
Why would the government stop Trump? Isn't he the head of the government? You're saying the government will be too small to stop Trump. If Trump's the president, why would the government, the bureaucracy, be actively trying to stop him?
Because they want to shredding the Constitution and creating an authoritarian dictatorship. That's why.
And no matter who is in office, I'm going to hold them accountable. But more importantly, I'm going to make sure the government is working for the American people.
Both of you all made an interesting point, which is that your view is that Trump is shredding the Constitution. I'd like to hear more about that. But that it seems to me that you all both believe that the unelected part of our government, the bureaucracy, has a responsibility to resist the political leadership. Is that your view?
That's not actually
That's
what
not
we
at all
said. We
what I
said they
said.
are
Yeah, it is.
upholding the Constitution, the principles of the Constitution, and at times
How
that we
is
have
Trump
seen,
shredding the Constitution?
my God, he's like,
I mean, seriously,
He
do we
doesn't
have to
believe in
give
the
you a
balance of
civics
power,
lesson
Scott.
that we have?
I don't know,
that we put all power in the executive
How is
branch.
holding the
The
government?
the legislative branch, the FBI. Now we're in control of the military.
Yes.
Silencing media.
Chief,
This
head
is
of
what
the
you
military.
do
It's a
in a
great part of power.
dictatorship.
Are
This
you
is not.
suggesting that the president is not the commander in chief of the military?
I am suggesting that the president is going to put in charge somebody who is going to contravene the Constitution. And at some near point, this conversation will look very silly for you because it will be obvious. And right now, you're gaslighting. But when we get to the actual rubber of the road of this, it will be
gaslighting.
clear.
I'm interested in this.
He's accusing
glasses look silly on him.
Who will contravene the Constitution? Like who? What do you mean by that? The president is in charge of the military, is he not? You said he's going to put someone in charge of the military?
The president is in charge of the military. That is how it works.
He was elected president. We, according to the Constitution, vest all executive authority in a president. And the concept that the military should be an independent agency or that the bureaucracy should resist the political leadership of this government is extraordinarily dangerous.
That's what we said. That's a straw
not what
man.
we
It's
said.
That's
ridiculous.
literally not what we said.
I'm just repeating back to you your own
I
words.
did not.
That's not what I said.
That's not what I said. I'm just repeating back to you what you just said. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Ryan Mack. Mac made it. He's got a new assignment. He's dealing now with a whole different population of students. Ryan, like I said, going before the show, going into the live production here, is that, we work outside of the shows that we put on the Ryan Mack Show. We have jobs. We stay busy. So I understand that nothing's easy when you get into this space of podcasting or putting out content. It's a flowing river that tends to turn into the rapids real quick. But this is a perfect example of the topics that we cover. The left has no interest no interest. In fact, they themselves, and it's been said by many, many people many times, they accuse you of doing what they are doing. That young man just said, "You're gaslighting me." No, I'm not. I'm just repeating what you said. You said that Trump is a dictator and a Nazi and everything else, and he's putting people in charge. But
Yeah.
he is, as the president, the commander in chief. Therefore, everything stops with Trump. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. He's the executive.
Yeah. So the bureaucracy that we're talking about, we've been talking about, the administrative state that's in charge of the government right now that he's trying to fight, that is who the left put in charge. Congress gave authority to the administrative state on the broad execution of their laws they set forth, but they've taken the next level. They've created more rules outside of their authority, and the Congress has just let them do it over these last, 30 plus years, 40 plus years. We've had some cases that have overruled them. This is what we've been talking about, and the left wants to continue to say Trump is a dictator. He has the authority to pause the foreign aid, despite a lower court telling him he can't. He has the authority from a broad scope to do everything that he's doing in these executive orders. And that's what they do.
Hence
So if he doesn't, then who has the authority?
Well, it's called the Constitution of the United States of America, and it's a fascinating little book. Everyone can get a copy. If you don't have a copy, contact DPB at the DPB show. Put it in the comments. I'll make sure you get a copy of this little document, because it's not that complex and it's not that complicated. It's fairly easy to read. In fact, it's interesting because the people I hear refer to the First Amendment over and over and over again, that somewhere in the First Amendment, the word separation of church and state, it doesn't exist. Birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment doesn't exist. But they have created, this is the essence of who these folks are. Mm-hmm. They've created their own world. I call it the land of make-believe here in Illinois.
Yeah.
But they've created their own fiefdom, their own way of communicating. I get it. If I happen to be subject to listening to Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, Joe Scarborough of Morning Joe, who, by the way, quickly went to Mar-a-Lago and bent down and kissed the ring of Donald J. Trump to say, I'm sorry, try to find good graces with him. But all these people are falling off. Jake Tapper.
Fake Tapper. There we go.
Jake Tapper. There you go. Jake Tapper. Tapper, Teeper, Topper, Tooper, Topper, Teeper, Topper, whatever his name is. I mean, the list goes on. Brian Stalter,
Head. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, it just never stops. This is how most of these folks get their information. They rely upon propaganda media. They know that, this young man said it, and he's right. I'm going to use his own words. One day he's going to look back on what happens, especially coming through the golden age. And by all means, we've got a lot in front of us. I mean, it's evidenced in this Epstein craziness. I think there's something that I have that I'd like to pull up. See if I can find it real quick. But Glenn Beck's going to cover it. Let me see. I know I just posted it up here. I'm going to scroll through. There it is right there. Glenn Beck's going to cover it. Let me jump it back on screen here. Let's see. Add to stage. There we go. I know it's not very big, so let me increase the size of it. Right below is Whoopi. That's a whole nother the view. But Glenn Beck on his expo says, who is subverting the POTUS, the president of the United States? I can't help but focus on Whoopi right now. Hold on. I got to shield her with my hand like this. Who is subverting POTUS? The Epstein files, hashtag, are a total joke. I know Cash, Pam Bondi, and the president. This is not the file. White House tells me that they believe the usual suspects, FBI, SDNY, has the actual Epstein list and are refusing to turn it over. This is an internal problem, which that's the essence of it, is internal civil war. I'm glad Glenn said it. I will be doing an X cast in a few minutes, but that's Brian. That's basically where we are. We have a
Yeah.
cold civil war going on.
Mhm.
This is why I believe that the golden age might be here.
Yeah.
But as this young man said on CNN, you're going to look back at one time. We're going to look back because we didn't even scratch the scratch of the scratch of the scratch of the abuse, the waste, and corruption. I have been shouting from a mountaintop now for 4 years about the brokenness and the corruption here in Illinois. And JB Pritzker is literally, my Mrs. Producer says it best. She says, let these people talk.
Yeah.
Because the more they talk, I mean, what JB did last Wednesday with calling most of America Nazis,
Yeah.
good luck, JB.
Yeah. We're just smelly Walmart shoppers to Hillary. Well, JB has the audacity to call out Robert F. Kennedy's health policies as dangerous when the guy hasn't seen the bottom part of his waist and feet in probably all of his life. If that isn't hypocritical to say another guy's health policies dangerous when you are literally the most overweight governor in the country, aside from Chris Christie. So
Well-
we make fun of Hakeem Jeffries as Obama light. Pritzker is dollar store Chris Christie.
Well, here's one of the best ones. Okay, so moving into this FBI craziness, listen to this young man. I don't know. I don't follow this guy on X, but I'm going to continue just to give shout outs to anybody I find. And you too can find everything that I'm seeing on this show, everything I'm covering on this show, you can see at the DPB show on X, on Facebook, Rumble. You have to listen to the show because it's not a interacting platform like X and Facebook. Truth Social. I do share things on Truth Social. I don't use it as much for my own truths as much as I retruth and I get content. But go out to my page because this is all covered there. But this one is extra special. This is a gentleman, and hold on, I'll grab it up here. This gentleman is named the Mad Max World TV. Are you familiar with him, Ryan?
I am not.
Okay.
Will be now.
What? He is. I think this is who he is. I don't know for certain if this is Owen Schroyer. Schroyer, is that how you say his name? Right?
I guess.
At Owen Schroyer, SHROYER, 1776. So he's 1776 moment. He happens to be at a little forum for James Comey, and here it goes.
Mm.
The fired FBI director, James Comey! The deep state hero, James Comey! The Democrat hero, James Comey! You did it! You illegally investigated Donald Trump! Thank you, Comey, for weaponizing the FBI against Donald Trump! Thank you for covering up Hillary Clinton's crimes and setting the stage for the FBI to cover up the Biden crimes, too. Come on, y'all!
Oh, my God.
James Comey! Come on, we love the FBI! We love the federal government! Why? You don't love the FBI? You guys don't appreciate James Comey weaponizing the government against Donald Trump? Come on, James! You should be happy! Donald Trump is the bad guy! We should be happy Comey weaponized the government against Trump. What the heck?
Look at the cops laughing.
Oh my gosh! Even he's
I'm so excited. I don't know why these people aren't as excited as me. Sorry, my excitement, officer.
Oh my gosh! The room.
They're gonna screen your questions.
You're going to screen your question.
Who killed Epstein?
Who killed Epstein?
Oh my God! Who killed Epstein?
Officer's got to talk to him.
So I couldn't go to trial.
He's very respectful. He gets up.
Yeah.
He knows his times because he got his time in, right?
Yeah, he
But
got
this
what
is
he needed to say.
This is a library. This is a public space.
Yeah.
My heart is beating out of my chest.
My heart is beating out of my chest.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
Hold on. I think he
What an
ends
honor,
this
guys. I'll tell
in
you.
a classic way.
To get to actually see the disgraced and fired FBI director in person was truly a magnanimous occasion for me. And you'd like me to leave?
We'd
Oh,
like
she'd
you
like
to
me to
leave.
leave. She'd like
He's in
me.
the
Comey can
lobby.
stay.
He's allowed to be
He's
there.
Love Jamie Comey.
He didn't disrupt the library.
James Comey. He just disrupted the whole. He just disrupted.
He
the whole
didn't
country.
disrupt the
Yeah.
library.
He
No,
didn't
he
disrupt the library.
disrupted-
James Comey just disrupted the entire country and a presidential election and a presidential term for Donald Trump. So, but wow, I mean, my heart is just fluttering that I got to see James Comey.
My heart is just fluttering. I got this. But this is what this space is doing for us. Scott
Yeah.
Jennings, this young guy, golly, he's out there on my X page. This Owen guy, man, nothing rude about him. All he did was announce what is true, right?
Yes. What
And he
now
did it in a
know
public
and
forum.
What we've suspected. Yeah.
Yeah, what we suspected, suspected. He's just bringing it to the forefront.
Yep.
And we know this because, Ryan,
Yeah.
and it's right here, just right below where he, I think it's, I got it here. Yeah, here it is right here. It's Jesse Waters was covering it. Let me blow it up here. And this just goes for a few seconds here. Let me make sure I get
mouth about the
up.
operation.
Going.
Alert, according to
This is alert. Let me get it on stage before I alert it.
the Washington Times, Kash Patel's FBI opening an investigation into James Comey. The Times reports that Comey launched an off-the-books honeypot operation against candidate Donald Trump. According to a whistleblower, he sent 2 female undercovers to infiltrate Trump's 2016 campaign and told them to act as honeypots, spies who use sex to get what they want. And the honeypots ingratiated themselves into the top ranks of the campaign. If true, that means the Obama administration was conducting multiple phony investigations into Trump without any evidence. The whistleblower says FBI employees were told to shut their mouth about the operation. And one of the agents was transferred to the CIA so she couldn't testify. This investigation into Comey isn't about revenge. It's about justice. Kash and Bongino's alert according.
So there it is. I mean, if you wonder why it is that these people are losing their proverbial minds and bashing Dan Bongino, a man who's willing to sacrifice and forfeit for this country everything. He is giving up, income in excess of 20 times what he will make as the deputy director. It's because he loves this country. This country has provided him so much. And he has said this so often, but this is what they're fearful of, because Dan Bongino knows everything that this Owen gentleman was saying about James Comey. We all know it. I happen to remember where I was at. I was in Vegas with my wife for a wedding of a friend when they came across the breaking news that James Comey was, at first they were going to investigate Hillary, and then they weren't going to investigate Hillary. And needless to say, what it led to was Trump ended up winning that election, I think, because Comey was in a precarious situation, because the fact that these people are bought and paid for, they are part of what's called the deep state, because they're the bureaucracy. They are the government within a government. And that's what we're cleaning out. And that's what is the resistance is against, is this government with getting rid of the government within a government, because this is who runs protection. It's interesting that this gentleman, these 2 videos that I just played back to back, the one guy was calling Comey out at a forum, because why aren't we losing our minds? Because that's not who we are. will
Mhm.
let the left, as Mrs. Producer says,
Yep.
let them hang themselves.
Yes.
Bill Clinton is still out in the media. He still has a, a favorable appeal to
Mhm.
certain people. And it's unequivocal now, unquestionable. In this first phase of the release of Pam Bondi's
Mhm.
Epstein files,
Yeah.
that Bill Clinton did crimes against the grossest, most disgusting,
Yeah.
inhumane crimes were committed by this man. And he continues to be free.
Mhm.
That is why I believe there is such the pushback. We're now hearing that
Yep.
FBI insiders are burning through, like Hillary was burning through data and emails
Yeah.
and
They're
smashing
trying to
Blackberries.
stonewall and undermine the Attorney General of the United States. Think about that, and the FBI director. She wrote a letter to Cash explaining what had been done before he was sworn in, and now she's giving him 2 weeks to investigate everything that's going on in New York because she believes New York has the majority of the documents left, Southern District of New York, and they have 2 weeks to investigate it, and she wants all the documents on her desk at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And if not, then he will be going after every one of them involved. And this is the type of thing we wanted for years to have happen. We wanted an attorney general directing an order to the FBI director, getting them on investigation, who's not doing their job, investigate, and then fire. People need to lose their jobs for not doing their job. When you have an order by the attorney general of the United States to put forth documents that she's asking and you stonewall her from your own agency, you no longer need a job. This is why we don't trust our institutions, because we have people inside the FBI still not doing what they're asked and what they're ordered.
I think that Elon said it best. We no longer have a democracy. We have a bureaucracy. And
Yeah.
that's what they are dismantling. And it is not going to happen overnight. You know, even this beautiful big bill that was just passed through the House, it's not a perfect bill. I'm not in love with the 7.3 trillion in spending, which is up almost 800 billion more dollars than the year before. And then, of course, over top of the bill that the Dems put forward through the Democrat Senate,
Mhm.
there's a lot of work to do. If you get a chance, Jack Posobiec interviewed Ron Johnson coming off the Senate floor. Ron is very complimentary of Mike Johnson and all the work that was done on the House side to get this at least past the House, right? But let's break it down now. And he's not talking about two bills. That's the Lindsey Graham approach of basic delaying this thing, because a lot of this has to be put into legislation and passed so it's bulletproof, right?
Yes.
We need bulletproof. We had a
Yeah.
president who's bulletproof.
Yes.
Now we need legislation for these executive orders that are bulletproof. Ron
Mhm.
Johnson has a three-phase approach, which I agree with.
Mhm.
And it pulls a lot more of this craziness out of there, the spending. I heard it earlier today, and I can't remember who I was listening to, but it was Dan. It was Bongino earlier today. We are taxed enough money is collected by the federal government to pay for everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything.
Mhm.
Medicaid, Social Security, education, feeding the hungry, taking care of all of the homeless, the veterans. We get enough money. What happens though?
Mhm.
We tax the people of, by, and for, and then we turn around and we basically pilfer and we rob and we spend and we abuse and we waste and we commit fraud. If we can just get the fraud out of the government and then trim the spending
Mhm.
down, then we could start to ride the ship. But as I mentioned, we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
It's just getting started.
Yeah.
You know, the best is yet to come.
Yep.
But we still have got a lot to go through to get to the best. I mean, we have house cleaning to do.
Mhm.
You know, I laugh at JB Pritzker. He's out there running a national campaign for I don't know what, but his own fiscal house is in such disrepair. Go out. I put it out on my social media pages. I've been sharing it on, different sources and different platforms, different pages like the National Public Radio Syndicate here where I live, WGLT, a local radio station called WJBC. I'm out there. I'm at the Pantograph, and you need to be doing this too.
Yes,
And
call them out.
don't be nasty.
Right. You can call them out.
B. Scott Jennings.
Yes.
Question what they're doing. JB's own Auditor General, Frank Montino, basically comes out with his 2023 Auditor General's report that states that there is not sufficient data to create a report to give a full picture of where we are as a state fiscally. And JB's out there talking about getting free handouts from the government and why it is he's not getting his federal bailout money because he needs a bailout. And it's not bailout money. It's just money that he was hoping to get. But unfortunately, there's now someone in the White House that's just not going to parlay him into his all of his little fantasies that he has.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Like a taxpayer-funded abortion, sanctuary cities, education where we can talk about DEI and get granted in CRT. Now they are. It's funny because his offshoot there in the Illinois State Board of Education came out, and he was bold enough to say that we're still telling our schools to go ahead and continue. And I took it as an opportunity to say, and this is how you can do it. I said, boy, this is going to go over real well, the DEI thing. And if we continue, because if the future is indicative of where they've gone in Illinois in educating our kids, reading, writing, and arithmetic, then how well are they going to do at diversity, equity, inclusion? They're going to fail at that too, because they don't do anything well.
No.
Because we have a broken system. All right. I feel like I need to come up for air, Ryan. What do you think?
Well, so I have a question. Maybe you can answer this. If not, we can go back to JB or some of his minions.
Okay.
So there is state law on the books as far as curriculum and policy.
Yeah.
It's called culture responsive teaching, which in effect is
CRT,
critical race theory. Yes.
Yeah.
So
CRT.
when it comes to federal executive orders, like we're no longer doing DEI and CRT in schools, what supersedes that? Federal law, right?
Yes.
So then that makes the mandate on the state board of education saying you can't do this or risk losing federal funding for schools, right?
Basically, what these people are putting themselves as is at risk. This is why they're going to receive letters, and they're all talk. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be like
it's all about money.
President Zelensky.
The NCAA doesn't care about men participating in women's sports. It's all about the money. They get government money. It's the same thing.
Yep. And it's just nonstop. And this is how contradictive it is, or how contradicting it is and hypocritical. And all the other adjectives that you want to put forth. This Jack Tapper.
Fake Tapper. He's also very hypocritical. So right on point.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I bring him on right now is because he's you probably saw this from Maze Moore, and if you haven't, it's worth the view.
About the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it. So we recovered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016.
No.
That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
what you just said is
why.
false. President Trump has gone to, quote, extraordinary lengths to keep specifics about his meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin secret, even keeping them from top members of his own administration. Take a listen to how President Trump responded Saturday night when asked directly if he has ever worked for Russia.
I think it's the most insulting thing I've ever been asked. I think it's the most insulting article I've ever had written.
The president did not directly answer the question. It's a stunning turn of events. Do you think the president of the United States ever worked on behalf of the Russians against American interests?
No, Jake. He didn't. No, I don't think that he did. But that's what I'm saying. These folks and their double talk and their hypocritical speak. You know, Senator Dick Durbin. I like to call him Senator Duck Durbin because that way I get both Tammy Duckworth and Durbin all in one breath, because that happens to be our notorious U.S. senators here in Illinois. Those two are definitely a pair. But Duck Durbin comes out the other day in his hypocritical way and starts to basically talk about any elected official, because he wanted to make sure that people are answering questions, he and Duckworth. You know, do you believe that elected officials should defy a court order from a federal judge? I'm like, what planet are we on? The president at the time, President Biden,
the resident of the White House,
defied a Supreme Court ruling that didn't allow him to basically excuse or forgive student loan debt. And he did it anyway. And when you start defying the Supreme Court, these judges that Duck Durbin is referring to, Duck Durbin's referring to federal judges who really don't have authority to be the executive branch. In fact, I have a video that explains this better than anything. And this is once again, we've got reps that are doing the duty of highlighting this, just like Owen at that meeting where he comes out and he basically holds his own forum within a forum. But I want to make sure that this doesn't open up, because I think it's already 18 seconds in here.
Hey guys, Congress.
Here we go. I'll get it on stage for you real quick. But this is Andy Ogles, and he talks about the woke Judge Hunter. And this is explaining a little bit about federal judges and why it is they're so adamant about pushing these judgeships out there, or shopping judges to comply, or shopping judges in order to get the result they want, which was to stop some of these executive orders. But he's brought impeachment. But here he goes. I think he does a great job explaining this on how this actually works.
Andy Ogles here. So I've got an update, I guess, the impeach-a-thon update. So you've got 11 judges here. So 4 of these already have impeachment articles in preparation process or already filed. I have 2 of these. We'll get back to that in a moment. And one of these judges just got spanked by the Supreme Court. Again, we'll get back to that. Over here, we have other judges also guilty of overstepping their bounds. And look, James Madison, founding father, warned us about an overactive, a too powerful, quite frankly, a woke judiciary. And we see it coming to pass right here. So what happened? This one right here. So this judge tried to block Doge from accessing, auditing the Treasury. We know there's waste, fraud, and abuse. This judge right here tried to force the Trump administration to spend billions of dollars to foreign governments. This judge right here tried to require agencies to put back onto their websites the transitioning of children. Oh, by the way, that's called child abuse. You belong in prison. This other judge, again, getting in the way of freezing government spending. This Herson fellow, gender affirming care. This one blocks freezing for NGOs. This one, birthright citizenship. So basically, as we try to right the immigration, we know we're being invaded. We're trying to do something about it. This guy wants your homeland to be less safe. This one right here blocks workforce re-education. So over and over blocks Doge. This is an assault on the presidency. This is an assault on our Constitution. And this is an assault against you. We've got this board. We've got this information. Everybody needs to see it. So we're going to put this outside for everyone to see and to know we're going to hold these judges accountable.
The impeach-a-thon update.
Yeah.
But this is what, I love. Let's just go ahead in the spirit of Scott Jennings and use their own language. Tell me what democracy looks like.
Mhm.
This is what democracy looks like.
Yeah.
Transparency, openness. We know who you are. We know that there is no desire to do away with the bloated government, the oversized government. We want to do away with it. In fact, that's the essence of this show on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and X. We want to bring content that you're not hearing about in the time frame you have. I get it. I can imagine some of you out there listening to us. You've got family, you got jobs, you got kids going to different events. It's an hour long, roughly an hour long. Sometimes we go over time, Ryan and I, and we're doing the research for you. This is what we love. We're passionate about. If Dan Bongino can sacrifice 4.9 million a year for a job that pays 200,000, Ryan and I can take some of our time. And that's just not Ryan and I, credit where credit's due, without Mrs. Producer. Yes, Mrs. Producer, you're right. This is what I need to make sure I know. Share this podcast. We can't rely on anyone else to get the word out except we, the people. We are the government by, for, and of the people. Of, by, and for the people. I always say those backwards, forwards. It doesn't matter. It is basically us. We are, once again, another socialist term.
Mm-hmm.
We're the collective. We're now in charge, and they can't stand it.
Yep.
And we're gaining momentum, and people are pointing the hypocrisy out, the inconsistencies. When you have a governor of the United States of America standing up during his State of the State address, and he starts by telling the entire electorate of the state that they're Nazis, and that the entire electorate of the country that voted for Donald Trump, that they're Nazis, we know we've won. If you hear the word racism or racist or xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, if you hear any of those titles, you've won. Let them continue to speak their language, because it isn't gaining any traction whatsoever.
If we're Nazis and 70 million plus people are Nazis, then who were the real Nazis in Germany? Who were the people that killed 6 million plus individuals for simply living?
Yeah.
That never sat well with me, because these people mowed down entire countries and a certain class of people simply because they had a different religious upbringing. They really reviled Jewish people and anybody that didn't go along with their form of government. And remember, Hitler wasn't coming to power on his own fruition. He was elected. So Democrats who run these states, who were in power last administration, they were elected, and then they just started destroying the fabric of the country. We have to remember that. They weren't just communists who came to charge by killing people. They were elected, and then they just stayed in power.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry, Ryan. What's fascinating to me, and I took my hat off. You can't see that because I don't have it on the screen, but I was showing off the shiny head. What's fascinating to me is the people on the left, the loony left, the liberal, progressive, Marxist, socialist. They act as if, at least I can acknowledge that you're a person of worth and dignity. That's what everybody should be afforded. So I'm not going to come out and I'm not going to start with the snarky sarcasm and all that other stuff, name calling. I just realized that if that's where you go right off the bat, then
Mhm.
you totally have lost your ability to communicate in a rational manner.
Yeah, that's all they have.
And that's all they have. But the people on the other side, and I hope you see this because I tried to see it with Mayorkas, with Ray, with gosh, he's Merrick Garland,
Mhm.
Boyd Austin.
Mhm.
Can't even remember who the Secretary of the State was. Oh, that was Mayorkas, right?
No, that was Blinken. Mayorkas
Blinken.
was DHS.
Thank you.
Mhm.
It's hard to actually figure out what any of those folks did
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
once again, it was all driven around weaponizing the government against another political party,
Yes.
which this is going to uncover. But here's a perfect example up on the screen. Benny Johnson shares this, right? Breaking, Attorney General Pam Bondi reveals in a letter to the FBI Director Kash Patel that the FBI is withholding Epstein documents from her. So the essence of this gets back to and I know I didn't hit upon this and I wanted to cover it at a little greater length. This is what a cold civil war looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Barack Obama spent his last 4 years as a lame duck president sowing into the federal government layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. He injected judgeships and middle managers, people who are beholding to the green news scam and the great reset, according to Klaus Schwab. And obviously the playbook is The Rules for Radical from Sal Alinsky. He injected this entire bureaucracy into the United States government, the government within a government. And when Trump took office in 2017, after defeating Hillary Clinton, he said that going into that, he wanted to drain the swamp. He didn't have enough people surrounding him that could do that.
Right.
Unfortunately, he had a lot of people giving him references and referrals of bad actors.
Yeah, his own cabinet and leadership were not the correct ones to put in place.
Well, he doesn't have bad actors any longer.
No. In order to drain the swamp, you have to put in the heads of your departments, the same people that think like you. In order to really flesh out everything, you have to put the right people in place to uncover the bodies.
Yeah.
And that all are on the same page. You can't have your Secretary of State and your DHS secretaries going at it and doing their own agendas. You can't have that. He had too much of the drama before. Now he has none of the drama. It's just moving in rocket speed, unleashing everything he can about what's going on in our government.
You know, Mrs. Producer, and also AKA Tanya Blumenshine, who are the ones who are actually protesting against and harassing the Jews?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know who those people are. They're supported, they're funded by George Soros and the left. And, you know, the same people who want to remove Israel from the earth are also wanting to continue to bloat and create the largest federal bureaucracy that they can possibly manage. That was why they are screaming about Medicaid and the recipients of Medicaid and how many people are getting knocked off and young babies and young kids aren't qualified. That's where, once again, continue to run with that, because you're not building anything. There's not an election for 2 years. You're going to get, that's all going to be, once again, reported as fake news. And as the young man said on CNN, you're going to look back on this, Tammy Duckworth, Dick Durbin, and all the other pretenders, and realize this was your last ditch hope. They, and I've heard it said, and I'm hoping it comes to fruition, and I believe it's going to, they might never win another election, the Democrats I speak of, for decades now, based on the damage they did to this country.
Yeah.
in taking us down the road they did.
That's a bold statement, but I tend to agree with that, because you won't know what you don't know until you find it. And once they find what the Democrats and most of the Republican Party have done to this country the last 4 to 15 to 20 years, and what we're uncovering, it's likely going to take 20 years to fix the rest of it. But what I learned recently, that a lot of the USAID stuff was under Reagan. And so even when you highlight the good things that Reagan did, there were some things his own government was doing at the time that created this monster that we have today.
You know, I know that we're kind of short running out, but what would Ryan and the Ryan Mac Show? There you are. Oh, hold on. Got to see this. It doesn't happen very often, but because I really respect this guy, we don't always agree, but we agree on a lot. So I want to get Donnie's post up here. I got to read Provoked by Scott Horton. Ronald Reagan had us on a path to a peaceful and prosperous relationship with Russia after the Cold War. Since that point, we have done nothing but needlessly provoke and escalate tensions between NATO and Russia. Should Putin have invaded? Of course not. We all know that. Thank you, Donnie. But acting like one day he just decided to invade Ukraine without cause to begin a quest to restore the former Soviet Union is intellectually dishonest.
Yeah.
I don't know. You need to go and like Donnie on Facebook. And he comments a lot on Tom. You probably seen this on Tom.
He and I don't agree with everything that he has shared, but I do agree with him on a lot of things, especially that one right there. That's a good one.
No. I will say Donnie and I
very
are
well
more
structured and very well said. He backs up his thoughts for sure. I respect.
And he's also dedicated his life to being a serving our country. So salute to my friend Donnie, and thank you for being on the DPB show. But I started saying I don't think we could end the show without a little comedic. How do you say that word? Comedic
relief.
I can't even speak today. Comedic or whatever the relief is we get. It's comedy relief.
Just don't Joe Biden that bit there. Get it out. Get it out.
Yeah, here we go.
Listening to this man, if I thought he had one iota of medical experience, he doesn't know. He's fired everybody. Where are the scientists? You fired all the damn scientists. You got rid of this one. You got rid of that. Who is checking?
Well, they vilify the scientists. Look what they did to Dr. Fauci. Yeah. I mean, they go after scientists.
But now we have a sweeping scale where people are making decisions not based on anything but their attitudes. And I'm okay if you want to do that with your family. But with my family, I want a doctor.
And the availability to get your vaccine.
They keep taking stuff down off these sites. They keep moving stuff. They're taking information out of your hands. I don't even know what to tell you to do. And if you got kids, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you, because there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't even know is coming that we have to be vigilant about. And when we have someone who is like, yeah, this is not a big deal, I worry.
You know, that's from MRC Newsbusters.
Oh my gosh.
Another classic one. But, you know, once again, she made a proclamation there that the article on this says, Whoopi Goldberg claims that JFK Jr. fired all the damn scientists. Get ready for them to have another legal notice to cover the blatant lie.
Yeah.
You know, she's gonna go away again. You know, no different than Joy Reid.
Yeah. Didn't they used to be just a rambling show on cultural and kind of entertainment stuff? And now they've gotten into this another wing of the Democrat Party's yelling match. It's hardly like Danny said, I can't believe you give them these screen time.
But Ryan, wait a minute. Mrs. Producer, I'm taking a page out of your book. If you are listening to those people,
let them talk.
Let them talk. The other day I saw it, and I don't have it in front of me, and I'd love it if I would have pulled it up. But listening to Kamala explain her position now, it's fascinating that not that we were even close to having her as president. Right. We're closer to having Joe Biden. I mean, let these people talk. You know, we had just mentioned, you know, with Donnie, Donnie is a libertarian. There's no secrets about that. I'm a conservative. I tend to be lean towards libertarian in a lot of ways that I think, no different than Bongino or Ben Shapiro. And there's others out there who definitely voted for Ron Paul. I voted for Ron Paul. I also voted for Ross Perot. But at least we can have his comment at the end, intellectually dishonest. Be honest about it. Donnie and I talk a lot about it. We don't agree. I guarantee you, we don't agree with the amount of money that was voted in for this bill that was just put forward.
Right.
We don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Ron Johnson doesn't agree with it. There are plenty of people who are stoic enough to realize this is not what we stand for.
Right.
But I also believe that you have to start moving the needle. And believe me, the Senate will work it out. I hope there is a process in trying to whittle away at the spending at the same time that Doge is over here basically uncovering,
bulldozing
highway robbery. You talk about stealing. I'm also looking forward to Fort Knox. Because at the end of the day,
actually in Fort Knox,
what's actually in Fort Knox? These are all these questions that people want answered. The Epstein files. I'm looking forward to see. Somebody said, which we know it's not the case, but because if it was, it would have come out definitely a long time ago.
Oh my gosh!
If Trump's on the flight logs if that were the case, believe me, that would have come out before November 5th.
Yeah.
But if he was, and we said this, then he would be subject to the full force of our constitutional republic and the rule of law.
Yeah. We're not above that. We're not above calling out our own members of our party. I don't agree with Trump on something that he's said and done over the years, but he more often than not will make through on his promises, and that's what I voted for him.
Yep. Bingo. We have to build an alliance. Yes, we do. There are things that Trump promised when he showed up at the conference, the annual conference for convention for the libertarians. And he made a pledge there. He said he was going to free a political dissident, and he did. It was a libertarian. There are other things that we continue to work for because you can't make it. A guy that I know here locally in the political realm, he says you can't make perfect the enemy of good. We're going to get as much done as we can because there's been a lot of damage. I'd love, and Donnie knows this, I would love to see a true at least 3, maybe 4 different active parties that were truly allowed access, ballot access. What prohibits ballot access to the Libertarian Party, to the Green Party? Well, the Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
Both of them. Because they don't want another party involved.
Yeah. They don't want another threat to their grip on power in Washington. I would happily vote for someone in the third party realm because although I vote Republican, I am not a Republican leaning voter. I'm a conservative first who happens to line up most of the Republican values. But believe me, if I could take a bulldozer to the Republican Party, I would too.
There's nothing that I've been able to locate, and Donnie, speak if you know of something that I haven't found, that states that the United States of America can only have the Democrats and Republicans running for the highest offices or any office. And it doesn't say that. And once again, they have stacked the deck against people. I mean, I believe there's a big swath of people out there that don't necessarily identify as Democrat or identify as a Republican. But when it comes to elections, they end up finding a way to one of those two parties.
Right.
Yes. And he's right. George Washington.
Most of our founders weren't even a part of a swath of parties. They had their own little factions early on, but they didn't call themselves a dominant party.
All right. Well, Ryan, one thing we have accomplished today, and I hope you guys realize that there he is, George Washington even warned us against it. And, once again, talk about somebody that's been brought up often lately. It's George Washington. These are the people that we need to read about, that we need to study. We need to go back and analyze it, because we are definitely at a pivotal time in our country's history. And I do believe that the best is yet to come. And I don't believe, yeah, I put up as the title of the show, "The Left Has No Interest in Making America Great Again." I believe the Democrat Party, and there are certain people within the Democrat Party, if they truly could be who they or be who they truly believe they are, uh, they would come to a realization that we want to make America great again. We want to reestablish the constitutional republic that we are, and live by the rule of law and the Constitution, and be strict adherence, or have strict adherence to the originalist rendition of the Constitution and what our founders meant. And I know we have a lot of work to do, but I do believe we are making amazing progress uh, towards that goal. And yes, I love to have the dissenting views. I want to play that video of Scott Jennings talking to that guy, because once again, all he asked him was, so are you telling me that Trump isn't the commander in chief? Because that's a different constitution you're talking about. You can't rewrite the Constitution. And if you're going to, there's a certain way to go about doing that. There's a legislative process in doing that. And the whole thing needs to be cleaned up, from all three branches, including where we're at right now. President Trump can't run again for president.
Right.
So we're hopeful that at the very least, we see some movement towards, first and foremost, taking us off of this cliff that we're teetering on towards bankruptcy, a de facto bankruptcy, because technically we can't go bankrupt. So those are the things we need to be working on and paying attention to, and truly leaning into. And I know we can all agree on that, at least the people that are favorable with who I am, other than a few people out there that I read their comments on. I love it, because I know that if they diminish me to a traitor. I've been called a traitor in the last week. I've been called a traitor. I've been called Spider-Man, that I'm in a fantasy comic book world.
I've never seen you climb a building and fly
No,
across town.
well, believe me, anymore with my broken body, two replacement hips and a shoulder surgery, I won't be repelled or
You'll be Iron Man pretty soon.
No, yeah, well, maybe I need a new suit. Yeah, give me the suit, somebody. But there's just so much that unites us. I love this, because my wife says this over and over again, especially amongst the Christian Catholic faith community. So much more unites us than divides us. How powerful would we be as followers, as the body of Christ, if we could truly unite around what we have in common, versus all the intricacies of how we interpret or see something in Holy Scripture? What kind of movement could we create? And that's what I want to pray for as we end this show, this episode of the DPB show, and is praying that we can find the ability, the prayer that was given to open up the first cabinet meeting yesterday by the HUD secretary was powerful.
Yep.
Lord, we don't have the answers. In fact, Lord, I'm taking my hat off. We don't have the answers. We have a show that you've given us this microphone in order to communicate with people, to talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Lord, we want to know how it is we can live here on this earth and truly live out a life in grace. We can truly be prepared for what you have in store for us, because Lord, I'm reading the last chapter of your book, And it's pretty evident that you have a plan to return to this earth, and that will be glorious. And I hope that happens in my lifetime. I hope that happens before I get home to see my beautiful wife at the end of this show, because we already know, she and I, and the beautiful thing is we try to instill that within our family and our friends that gather around us, that we want to be ready to receive you, to go into heaven, because ultimately that's what the best is yet to come is really about. The best is yet to come is heaven. It's leaving this earth. But yet, I want to leave this earth knowing that I have led as many people as possible to the glory of God. That's what I truly pray for, Father. It's in your Son, Jesus, that we deliver all of these messages. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I love you, Ryan.
I love you.
But Jesus loves you more. Appreciate all you guys. Once again, go out, share this, go to become friends with Ryan and I. If you know, once again, this is my plea to you. There is so much opportunity in the space of this world that Rush Limbaugh created this movement. You talk about the founder of a nation in George Washington, the founders of the nation in George Washington and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Paine and Paul Revere, and the list goes on and on and on. John Hancock. Those were the people who founded this country. The founders of this movement of conservative talk radio, Rush Limbaugh, made a way where there was no way. In fact, most people said it couldn't be done. And now we, as Dan Bongino says, we are the media. I watched the counters. I'll tell this last little bit before we leave. I was watching Dan Prof on Answer 560 in Chicago, and I was watching his ticker with Amy Jacobson. And when you see that the DPB show and the Ryan Mack show outperformed Dan Prof, that says something. And that's not to take anything away from Dan. Dan's
Right.
in his own space.
Sure.
Now, I will tell you, I agree with Donnie Henry more than I agree with Dan Prof, and that's just a whole nother conversation for another time. But there is space. There is plenty of room for people who want to be part of this movement, because this movement is just getting started. I saw Mrs. Producer put up their Gravity, Revelation. Then I saw a Great White Throne. She put up some scripture. What a beautiful, that's right in the last 3 chapters, 20, 21, and no, there's no 22. But she put up the scripture. Thank you, Mrs. Producer. Hey, we're going to see you next Tuesday. Description of Heaven. Thank you. I was trying to figure out how that related. There she is. The Description of Heaven. It is a beautiful thing that lies, that I anticipate. And right now I'm participating in it. It will happen. I know it will, because Jesus tells us it will. So, hey, until Tuesday, I can't even begin to fathom what's going to happen between Thursday and Tuesday, but hang tight. I always have promised that you never know. I might pop in and do a Facebook Live or a DPB show live to bring you up on any breaking news. I'm watching, listening, trying to decipher what phase 1 of the Epstein release is all about, but I know there's much more out there. Hey, until next Tuesday, I bid you farewell.